Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Board for Wednesday, January 17, 2024. Just some housekeeping before we stand for the pledge. I'm going to violate every HIPAA rule and tell you I'm in day 6 or 7 of after testing positive for COVID. While I have had no symptoms and took the test for other reasons, I'm wearing the mask just to protect those around me. So I'm going to let Kevin, our vice chair, run the meeting. So I don't know how mumbled this sounds. So rather than me trying to speak through this thing, I don't know how we wore this thing for years because this is the most uncomfortable thing right now to wear. But if you're here to speak on a public hearing, I would ask you to fill out one of these items, one of these yellow cards that are on the table. We ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. If you're an applicant, we ask you for the public hearings to keep your reports to 30 minutes or less. There are no adjournments on here tonight, or are there? There's nothing adjourned this evening. If the item is not listed as the public hearing but a decision item, there is no public comment on it. You're welcome to stay to listen to those presentations. Can I ask everyone to please stand for the pledge?
To the flag of the United States, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Mr. Brown.
Item 1 on the agenda, Carver's Grill, northwest corner of Patchogue Holbrook Road and Spring Meadow Drive, Holbrook, New York. It's known as 480 Patchogue Holbrook Road. Applicant requests a planning board special permit for outside seating as an accessory to a permitted restaurant in the Business 3 District pursuant to 68-302 1E. Site plan modifications may also be requested as part of this application. PB 2023-040. Do we have an applicant? Just please give your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services, with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
Go ahead, Roxanne.
Okay. I did speak with Kelly, and she said she did have a staff report that she was going to read.
Okay, what we can do is we could have
questions.
Kelly do her staff report then, and then we'll take, we do have a public speaker for this.
Yes.
And then after that, if there's any questions or anything, we'll just
I'd like
stand
to
by
answer.
for it. So we're going to go to Kelly for staff report.
Okay, thank you. The property is located on the northwest corner of Patchogue Holbrook Road and Spring Meadow Drive in Holbrook, and it's improved with the one-story multi-tenant commercial building, CO'd in 1990. Tonight, the applicant is looking to obtain a special permit for outdoor seating accessory to Carver's Restaurant, which was CO'd in 2016. The outdoor seating area is located south of the building adjacent to the restaurant. The seating is located on a raised deck with 7 tables and 32 seats. The applicant is also showing outdoor seating on the sidewalk area in front of the restaurant entrance, which is an additional 5 tables and 16 seats. The property is currently undergoing site plan review for the deck, which was built without the benefit of permits, in addition to legalizing some tenant spaces that require additional parking relaxations. Overall, the site will require a 17% parking relaxation. It is important to note the property does share parking with the dental office parcel to the south, which offers additional parking. There are no known parking issues for the site, and the outdoor seating area will have to comply with 68-302.1E of the zoning code. Therefore, planning recommends the board grant the application subject to the attached conditions.
Thank you, Kelly. I do have one public speaker here, Rick Amirati.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. You need my address or my name or anything? Have that?
Please just give your address for the record.
Sure. Rick Amirati, 1000 Main Street, Holbrook, New York, is the office of the Chamber of Commerce. Well, great to be here tonight. I thank you for the opportunity. It never gets lost on me to come before the planning board. It's been a few years since I have been in front of you all, but it's time now, and I wanted to come out in support of the Carver's application. I have been president of the Chamber of Commerce for the past 24 years. I was installed in office in 2000, so a lot has changed in Holbrook, and obviously, as you know, a lot is going to change in Holbrook because there's a lot of new zoning that's coming about with the new addition to sewers, which the Chamber initiated back in 2006, is coming to fruition, so we'll be coming in to speak about that. that and getting more involved as well with the Sunvet Mall application and some of the other developments that are going to happen, including Midway Crossing, which will impact us. So we're very in tune with that. And that kind of brings it all back to Carver's. One of my core tenets of being a president the last 24 years is to advocate and support our members. And there's nobody I would want to support more than the Carver's restaurant. The restaurant business right now has gone through obviously a lot of issues with the economic climate, the way business is, in addition to coming out of COVID, which is, I believe, when the whole initiation was with this deck, because of the resources had to be made. People were getting resourceful regarding, trying to stay competitive, stay economically viable on short times. In addition to that, Sunvet Mall will get developed, as will Midway Crossing, as I mentioned, and Main Street. We have to make sure that the Holbrook Commons also is able to maintain and do business as well. So that's the reason why I'm here tonight, to support that application on behalf of our 175 members of the Chamber of Commerce. I don't profess to be a land use expert. However, I did sit on the Economic Development Advisory Commission with the town of Islip under Bill Mannix for 15 years. And I currently sit on the Citizens Downtown Revitalization Panel for Suffolk County for the last 5 years. Both were appointed positions, and learned a lot about zoning. This is a smart plan. You will not find a better operator. I will go on record as saying Carver's is probably one of the finest restaurant operators, not only in Holbrook, but in Suffolk County. He's been a dear friend to the community. The town loves him. The neighborhood loves him. Obviously, I don't see anybody here opposed to the application. So I don't want to use the word implore, but I strongly suggest and urge on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and my members that you approve the application as proposed. I know he'll do the right thing. Like myself, he grew up in Holbrook. He still lives in Holbrook across the street, and I grew up 5 minutes from walking distance from the Holbrook Commons. So very intimate with that development. It's been a fine development and a great asset to Holbrook. So I thank you for your time and your consideration, and look forward to seeing you gentlemen and ladies in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Amarado.
Thank you.
I don't have any other registered speakers. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this? Seeing no one, I'm going to go, does the members of the board have any questions? Seeing none. Roxanne, do you have anything else to say?
Nope, I'd just like to add for the record that we also had a letter of support from New York State Assemblyman Douglas Smith and Suffolk County Legislator Anthony Piccirillo, which we forwarded to the.
We do
planning
have
board.
that letter in our file, and it is part of the record.
Wonderful. And I'd also like to add that while this was, the outdoor seating was done during COVID, he did obtain the permits, the temporary permits for the outdoor seating every year until we were able to bring forward the application.
Right. Okay, with that being said, do I have a motion? Mr. Moriarty?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd make a motion to close the public hearing this evening and to grant them applications subject to the attached conditions.
I have a motion by Mr. Moriarty to close the public hearing and to grant the application subject to the signed conditions. Do I have a second? Mr. Matamore, second. All in favor? Aye, it's unanimous.
Thank you. Have a
Granted.
good night.
Item number 2, Erica Zaja, PB 2023-043, south side of Dorrell Lane, approximately 200 feet east of Cedar Ridge Lane, Bay Shore, 14 Dorrell Lane. Applicant requests a planning board certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a new window in a planned landmark preservation district pursuant to 68-451A2. Do we have an applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thomas Bloor, the architect for the project, 60 Carlton Avenue, Suite 202, Islip Terrace, New York, 11752. So the intent of this application is to request the planning board certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a new window in the planned landmark preservation district. The scope of work consists of an interior alteration to an existing 2-story open to above space to create a new bedroom, as well as adding a new triple window within the existing rear second floor facade. My client has received approval from the Homeowners Association Board. And as far as precedent, there are other units in this development that have this exact same window. The window will be a triple casement Anderson window, white in color, to match all the existing windows. And I can submit some photographs of just the existing conditions and that precedent where it has the same window if you'd like. Board should have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, I see that you handed something to be part of the record. I have nothing for anybody to signed up to speak on this application. Is there anybody here that would like to speak on it? Seeing no one, I'm going to go to the staff, which would be Kelly.
Thank you. The property at 14 Doral Lane in Bay Shore is occupied by an attached single-family residence, CO'd in 1987. The property is located within the Planned Landmark Preservation Overlay District, which was overlaid to protect the natural landscape and preserve the trees and vistas around Awixa Creek. Tonight, the owner of 14 Doral Lane is looking to install a new triple window along the rear elevation in connection with the conversion of a loft space into a bedroom. The window will be the same as other windows in the development with white grills and will be consistent with the style of existing windows on the house. There are no other exterior changes proposed, and the proposed action will not interfere with the scenic vistas or remove or alter any of the trees on site. Therefore, planning recommends the board grant the application as shown on the plans by Thomas Bohr, last dated 11/3/2023.
Thank you, Kelly. Does the applicant have anything else to add? Nope. Do we have any questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we close this hearing and grant the application.
I have a motion from Brian Ferrajari to close the hearing and grant the application. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mike Moriarty. All in favor? Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Item 3 on the agenda. MH Brothers. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Item 3 on the agenda, MH Brothers, Inc., care of Sean Castman, CZ 2021-009, northeast corner of Carlton Avenue and Elmore Street, Central Islip. Applicant requests a change of zone from Business 1 District to Business District and a planning board special permit for a mixed-use building pursuant to 68-2571G. Site plan modifications are required as part of this application. Do we have an applicant?
Yes, sir, you do. My name is Joseph Clemens, a partner in the firm German and Clemens Architecture PC, located at 3275 Veterans Memorial Highway, Suite B11, Ronkonkoma, New York, 11779. I'm speaking to you this evening on behalf of my client, MHS Realty and Construction, Inc., in regards to the 0.338 acre parcel situated on the northeast corner of Carlton Avenue and Elmore Street, with a property tax.
Mr. Clemens, if I can just interrupt you. Could you just please turn it around? We do have a couple of public speakers on this, so I'm sure there's some people interested in that, and we have all the information up here. Thank you.
You're welcome. With the property tax map number of 0500-120-05, 68, 80, and 81, located in Central Islip. More specifically, the subject property has a physical address being 108 and 110 Carlton Avenue and is improved with an office building and a beauty salon. This application presented before you proposes a change of zone from Business 1 District to Business District and requests planning board special permit for a mixed-use building pursuant to section 68-257.1G of the Town of Islip zoning code. Site plan modifications are required as part of this application as well. To provide some context to this application, I would like to mention that this property is a part of the Long Island Downtown Revitalization Initiative for Central Islip, or DRI for short. The award for the project had originally stated that this property was to construct a 26,000 square foot mixed-use multi-story building at 108 and 110 Carlton Avenue with ground floor retail or commercial use and upper story affordable apartments, parking, providing opportunity for downtown living, enabling new commercial uses, and increasing foot traffic, and had been awarded grant money to make said improvements. At the time, however, plans had not been provided to determine whether the project could be built under current or proposed zoning, especially as it related to the initially proposed four-story height and parking requirements. The Downtown Revitalization Initiative was created to promote revitalization, growth, and transformation in ways that reflect the collective reimaging of the downtown and provides funding to help achieve that vision with a higher quality of life, amenities, and connection between place and community. It was also stated that the DRI process involves an innovative combination of community-based strategic planning, interagency project support, and strategic leveraging of outside investments. The goals of the DRI were to, one, create a thriving and growing transit-friendly downtown with a vibrant mix of uses, two, to promote a walkable and desirable Main Street, and three, to enhance the quality of life for all. Using the information which had been provided per the client with regard to the DRI initiative, our office had originally prepared a preliminary site plan dated March 17th of 2021 and proposed a three-story mixed-use structure which had included retail on the first floor and a total of 14 apartments on the upper floors. This proposal provided a total of 14 parking stalls while 47 were required. Multiple conversations with the client and planning department had taken place at the time, as we were attempting to provide a plan consistent with the DRI while also providing something which the planning department was supportive of. At that time, however, our office had received differing opinions on elevation aesthetic from the planning department, which had tabled any progression for the application as there was no clear direction on how best to proceed. Conversations with the town's planning department had resumed in approximately June of this past year to discuss how we could potentially move this project along in a manner which was acceptable to both the client and potentially the town. It was recommended by planning staff that we revise the site and building design to reduce the depth of the ground floor area in an attempt to increase provided parking. The building was then lengthened as a result, and the orientation of the building on site had been modified slightly to comply with the setback requirements and maximize efficiency. As a result, the plan provided, SK1D, demonstrates the most current layout. The proposed three-story building will include a ground floor area of approximately 3,792 square feet and will accommodate retail as well as a residential lobby in a location convenient to its residents. The second and third floor are approximately 4,300 square feet and will include a total of 6 apartments. A basement area to be used strictly as storage for the residents and potential utilities is also proposed. An FAR increase shall also be requested as the building proposed has a floor area ratio of approximately 110%, while 60% is permitted within the zone. This will be subject to the Town of Islip Zoning Board of Appeals approval process, however, is less than what the original DRI had recommended. Taking into consideration the total building, 35 parking spaces would be required. The revised preliminary plan provides a total of 21 spaces. The request of relaxation of approximately 38%. Please keep in mind, however, that the basement area, which was included in the calculation, requires a total of 4 spaces, calculated at 1 to 1,000 square feet. However, is more comparable to non-habitable storage space or mechanical access, and would thus reduce the required parking to 30.4 spaces, requiring a relaxation of 31%. I would also like to note that there is possibility of including 5 additional on-street parking spaces on Carlton Avenue directly in front of the proposed building as well, further reducing the request for relaxation down to 14.5%. The thought is too that the uses within the building have offsetting hours of primary use. The retail will require parking during daytime hours, times when the residents would likely be out working. It is also worth noting that the property owners also have a property located north of the subject site with the property address of 83 Carlton Avenue. This property is actually adjacent to a Town of Islip owned property, which is currently utilized as a parking lot. There is a possibility that any overflow be directed to that property, as there are currently 27 spaces provided between the 2 lots. The clients also did not object to the possibility of improving the current property to include additional parking if necessary. However, this would need to be further reviewed for compliance with planning and zoning regulations. As part of this application, a buffer relaxation is proposed along the east property line, reducing the required 25 feet to 10 feet in an attempt to maximize provided parking. The provided buffer, however, shall be planted with a double row of 7 feet high screen plantings at 5 feet on center and new deciduous trees at 20 feet on center, or per recommendations as provided by engineering staff department upon submission. A new buffer fence shall also be provided, further reducing any potential impacts on neighbors. The front yard landscaping is requested, as currently 3.5% is provided, while 10% is required. A total yard landscaping relaxation is also requested, as 5.6% is provided, while 20% is required. Please be aware, however, that 17% of the lot is landscaped, including the buffer areas. Regardless, in reviewing other commercial properties which are in close proximity to the subject site, These requests for relaxation seem consistent with the nature and character of the immediate area. Most of the local properties do not currently have planted buffers, and if so, are also substandard in size. With the sewer infrastructure presumably in the process of being installed, a project such as the one which we are proposing can be given serious thought as it is now viable. This application would provide support for mixed-use development to create a live, work, play environment and would help improve the physical conditions along Carlton Avenue corridor. The retail space will help increase foot traffic in the downtown and help promote the addition of other desirable retail uses. The new residential units will help address the need to provide more quality housing in the downtown area. The new building, which is still in the planning phases with regards to aesthetic, will enhance the overall appearance of the area as well. This will hopefully help in revitalizing the area, as the intent is to provide a high quality of life and provide a vibrant community where people would want to live, work, and experience life and raise families. In closing, as you can see from the plan set before you, my client simply wished to provide something which contextually fits in with the surrounding area while greatly improving the central Islip downtown area, specifically the Carlton Avenue corridor. The improvements requested will become a benefit to the overall community and enhance the aesthetic. New landscaping, including street trees and continuous use bushes, will be added, which will enhance the look of the site and conform with the town of Islip standards. This will be a vast improvement from that of the existing blighted property. As such, we would respectfully request your support and hope that you recommend this change of zones so that my clients can convert this dated and underutilized site into a catalyst for improvement, and we can continue to enhance the central Islip community, something which I am sure we all agree would be a great benefit. Thank you as always for your time and consideration on this application, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have after the public portion.
Thank you, Mr. Clements.
Very welcome.
Clement, the display that you had facing this way and then turned around, that depicts a four-story building, but this is a three-story project.
Just for clarification, and I'll give you, I have this I can hand in
People
too, it's the
looking at
DRI.
a four-story
No,
building.
so it's only a three-story building which is proposed. The only reason why that image was even given was it was part of the original DRI application, or at least what was provided in the DRI packet. It was just, I guess, to give some form of an aesthetic, although I don't believe that's what the town of Islip's looking for at this point, at least from feedback from planning staff. So it was basically just given to give you some substance as to what the aesthetic could have potentially looked like. I don't think it's going to head in that direction, but by no means would it be a four-story building. That was the initial application. It has since been changed to 3 stories. It's been pretty much downgraded in almost all categories in terms of units promoted. Originally, like I said, it was 14 units. We were trying to stay consistent with what the grant had said. We went from 14 units down to 6 units of residential
I
use.
understand that. I just wanted to
Yep,
make
for
sure that.
clarity. And if you
people
guys
looking at
need this, I'll give
four-story
this to
building aren't
public
thinking
record.
that's what you're proposing.
Yep.
All right, I do have 2 public speakers on this. Debbie Kavanaugh.
Good evening, Debbie Kavanaugh, 21 Walnut Street, Central Islip, President of the Central Islip Coalition. We met last night and we discussed it among our members, and the community is against a 3-story building. We are okay with 2 stories, but we do not want to see anything down there on Carlton Avenue 3 stories. We are right now oversaturated with apartments between the Vista Project, Steel Equity, Farrell, the Cocoa Project going in. We have over 2,000 new apartments going in. Parking, there is none in Central Islip on Carlton Avenue. Most of Carlton Avenue on that side of the street has no parking signs by the county. Not that people listen, because the police do not ticket the way they should. It is a hazard to the fire department trying to get down in case of emergency, or the ambulance car trying to get down, because that road is narrow. It currently takes, during rush hour traffic, from 7:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock in the morning, 30 minutes to go from Smith Street to the LIE. From 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock, 30 minutes going again from Smith Street to the LIE. With all the new traffic coming in, with all the 2,000 new apartments going in, traffic is going to become an hour from Smith Street to Carlton Avenue. It is becoming a fire safety hazard for the fire department to answer calls, the ambulance corps to answer calls. And when the cars are getting tired, they're now driving down side streets. And the side streets along this project is nothing but bunkhouses. And there are no parking spaces on the side street because the bunkhouses take off. So even for a fire truck or an ambulance car to go down the side street, it is hazardous because the streets are so narrow. So as a resident of Central Islip and the president of the coalition, and after discussing it with my members, we will not support a 3-story building. We will support a 2-story building because we don't want Carlton Avenue to look like the city. We want it to be a downtown, but still remain clean. 3 stories is turning it into city looking like, and that's what the community doesn't want. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kavanaugh. Tom Haran?
How you doing? Thank you for having me here. This project is on Carlton Avenue. I
Tom,
was
just
born
give
and
your
raised in
address.
CI.
Tom, just please give your address.
Okay. I was born and raised in Central Islip. Okay. When we had the revitalization meeting 3 years ago in high school, they said no 3-story buildings along Carlton Avenue. They said only 2-story buildings would be allowed. Okay, so now that's 1. 14 apartments. There's no parking behind that building at all. So we got 14 apartments, 2 cars per apartment. At least 28 cars right there. Right now, the fire department working on Suffolk County to have no parking along Carlton Avenue. Because right now, we cannot, between the hours of 2 and 7, get a fire truck through town. So we need a turn lane there. So you're gonna eliminate parking in front there. There's not enough parking in the back at all. And then with that area built, 50 yards from there, 100 yards, there's a halfway house that it's a 10-bedroom house and it houses 22 men. Now, these guys are walking the streets all day, all night, harassing people, begging for money. You know, I had one person come to me and bang on my window because I wouldn't give him any money, yelling and screaming at me. You know, so we're going to build this project with this halfway house right in the corner. So, my personal opinion, I don't think this should be a 2-story, maybe 1-story, a couple of apartments, and a little bit of parking. But I don't see no parking back there at all. You know, so.
Mr. Haran, can I just have your address for the record?
My address, yeah.
Yeah.
23.
No, she's taking a record.
23 3rd Avenue, Central Islip. Right up a Carlton Avenue. Okay. And just the traffic, I mean, during the daytime from I'm familiar from Robbins Hall to Carlton Avenue, it's like it takes me a half hour, 40 minutes to go 1.5 miles to my house. You know, you're going to add all the traffic there too. I don't think it should be a good deal.
All right, thank you for your comments. I do not have anybody else signed up. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this application? Sir, come on up and fill out one of the yellow slips after you speak. But when you come up, just give your name and your address for the record, please.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Todd Johnston. I'm at 22 Elm Street in Central Islip in the College Woods section of Central Islip. And I just wanted to speak. I, like Debbie Kavanaugh, sat on the DRI committee. I had no plans to speak tonight, but I just wanted to relate that when to my recollection, when we did go over this process, the idea and concept of 3-story buildings was consistent with what we were talking about. 2, 3-story buildings were something that might be down there. And my recollection is that it was well received by the community as far as development. I do agree that parking is a concern. I do agree that traffic has increased, but you know, I still think that Central Islip could benefit from further development. I don't think a 3-story building, and who am in contact with a lot of people who are in the College Woods section of the community, I haven't heard any real opposition to that sort of concept. So I just wanted to make sure that was, you know, part of it. I do want to be part of full disclosure that I am an active real estate agent in that community. And so I do have relationships with many of the property owners, including the developers here. But what I'm trying to communicate to you today is prior to that, my participation in the DRI and what the vision was and what I heard from the community. And I for one, did not really hear an opposition to the idea of a 3-story building going in that property. But I'll leave it up to you to to decide how to weigh that.
Right, Mr. Johnson, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this? Seeing no one, we're going to go to the staff report. Mr. Colgan.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. Stated by the applicant, this application proposes a mixed-use building on a site improved with 2 commercial buildings. The proposed development is one of the grant recipients from the New York State Downtown Revitalization Initiative, the goal of which is to fund projects within struggling downtowns as part of a revitalization effort to make them more vibrant. The business district they're requesting is generally preferred in areas within established or developing downtown areas. The comprehensive plan for Carlton Avenue recommends mixed-use development such as this. The DRI strategic investment plan recommends modifying the zoning up and down Carlton Avenue to support denser development. The subject project was recommended by the local planning committee after extensive digital and stakeholder engagement consisting of 7 LPC meetings, 3 community meetings, and ongoing networking while the strategic investment plan was being developed. The conceptual plan before you today shows 5.6% overall landscaping and approximate 40% parking annexation, which might realistically be lower due to the storage component. It also has a vegetative buffer of 10 feet to the east. Variances will be needed from the Zoning Board of Appeals for a floor area ratio of 1.1 instead of the permitted 0.66. Given the shallow depth of the site and the goal of downtown revitalization, the staff believes a buffer relaxation should be considered by the board. Proposing plantings on the neighboring residential property and prohibiting intense uses could help mitigate concerns over the buffer relaxation. The staff is awaiting modified building elevations, of which we have advised that a residential look is appropriate in the context of this area of the downtown. The staff recommends that the board reserve decision tonight to review the comments we've heard from the public, as well as await to present acceptable architectural elevations for this board's review.
Thank you, Mr. Colgan. All right, do we have any questions from the board? Mr. Ferrajari.
I just have, it's a point of clarification. Maybe I misheard you, but in the staff report, we have parking required is 46.5 and parking provided 14. On your own plans, you mentioned that it's 46.5 is required parking. But during your presentation, I thought I heard you talk about parking requirements somewhere in the 30s, 36. And as you talked about the basement, you kept reducing it a bit and reducing the level of the parking variance. Can you explain what's reality?
We'll turn it on.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clements.
So for clarification, initially, per the original DRI and the first application we made, when it had 14 apartments, it did require 47 parking stalls, and we were only providing 14 at the time. It was a big ask. Since then, we had multiple conversations with planning staff to try and keep whittling down that number. And again, at this point, the requirement in terms of the floor area, including the basement, was 34.2 spaces as a requirement. The current plan, that SK1D, which is the most current site plan that we prepared, provides 21 spaces. Then, like I said, if you take out the storage component of the basement, it's not calculated. It's going to diminish the number. If we are permitted to have the 5 on-street parking stalls, then
So that I all understand that, but
Yeah.
from what you're saying, it seems like the plans that we're looking at tonight aren't really accurate.
I'm
They
not
don't
sure which plans you
accurately
have.
depict
If you're looking at SK1D, which was the one that I most recently sent,
SK1B.
no, it should be SK1D.
Okay,
That was the one that was most recently uploaded. So, and that one would have a total of, it has a different layout orientation too.
1D, I have SK1B.
There you go. If you look at the parking
All right, so
calculations on
that's
that,
the
it should
confusion,
clarify.
is that some of us are looking at the wrong plans.
Understood.
Okay, so at the end of the day, how many apartments are you proposing this evening?
6.
6.
Yes, it's 3 per floor presently.
Okay, all right, thank you. That
You're welcome.
clarifies it.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrajari. Mr. Moriarty?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarification. What's the current height limitation on that site?
I might need to reflect the Sean on this one. I know that there's a variable in there, I think offhand, if I'm not mistaken. I thought it was like 36, and I think there's a way that you can go higher depending on certain improvements you make. Sean, if you can correct me if I'm wrong.
So the maximum number of stories is 3 with a maximum height of 37 feet in the business district.
Okay, so that was the question I was asking. So currently 3 floors is contemplated under the current rules. Okay, thank you.
Okay, do I have any other questions from the board? Inez?
Hi, so the parking on Carlton Avenue, is that something you're still requesting, you're looking into? Because
Mr. Clemens, just could you hold on a second? Your mic keeps coming in and out. Just give us a second. We're going to change it out.
While they're changing that, can I ask a question of Sean?
Absolutely.
Sean, along those lines, when we're talking about parking spaces on Carlton Avenue, can you use public parking spaces in your parking calculations, or is it just on-site parking?
That's a consideration of the board. So the way the subdivision regs read, the board can consider on-street parking in the business district. Just to clarify though, it's not restricted to this applicant, it's just a consideration. It's also county road. So the county has the final say as to whether or not parking would be permitted there. I did have cursory conversations with county DPW, and generally speaking, they don't see any reason why there couldn't be parking, but that's not as a result of a formal review. We expect that parking can be provided there, but for now, it's just a consideration as like a mitigation for their parking relaxation.
Parking on Carlton Avenue wouldn't be exclusive for this use.
That is correct. Anyone
and
could use it.
therefore not always available for this.
That is correct.
And Inez, you've had your question?
well, I was asking about the parking on, on Carlton Avenue, because it's, the back, first of all, do you even know what businesses will be down? Do you have an idea? Nothing.
At this point, just cursory, we were just calling for retail.
Okay.
I know if you look at the DRI, which is counterintuitive, but if you look at the DRI and realistically what they're trying to promote, some of the uses don't necessarily benefit us at this point because they say they want minor restaurants and things like that that are going to promote walkability and things like that. So that would not necessarily work as well for our type of application because it would require further parking relaxation. So I think at this point, we're limited to retail. And of course, if we wanted to pursue anything further, we'd have to come back before your board regardless.
Right.
So at this point, it's just a
And
blanket
the
statement of
renderings aren't
retail.
finished either, right?
What's that?
The renderings aren't finished this.
No, those aren't even the renderings for the project. This is what we were provided with as examples to work from. Just knowing what we dealt with the original application and what we were trying to go through, we were getting different opinions. So therefore, it was recommended to us that we wait till after the
Okay.
public portion. so
All
we
right,
can
great.
proceed.
That's it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other board members? Mr. Chairman?
I will try my best with this mask on. Just a couple of questions for you.
Yep.
I do understand from Mr. Johnson's point that 2- and 3-story buildings were at least discussed.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily have a problem with a 3-story building. Where my concern comes in is the buffer in the back. I know we talked about possibly plantings on the neighboring properties. Have we had discussions with the 2 homeowners?
If you look, we kind of discussed it initially, in part of a meeting that we had with planning staff. If you physically look at the, I guess, property that's closest to Elmore Street, I believe, there's not much of a yard there. Their driveway is literally up against the property line. So I don't know to what degree we'd be able to plant on their property. The one
Just the answer to my question is, have you had discussions with them?
with them, no.
Okay. And what about the house behind it on Earl Street?
I personally have not.
Okay, so I mean,
And that's
I know
something we
there's
could,
talk about it. My concern is that, the building is so large that we have to have that many parking spots that we have to, this is where I would go from 3 stories to 2 stories unless it can be addressed. We haven't even addressed it with the 2 residences behind it. I mean, if they're going along with it, they own those houses. If they go to sell it, they've agreed to it. If not, they're getting a 10-foot buffer. And you just said it yourself. I mean, the house is not that far from the property line. They're gonna have cars pulling in and out of there possibly all day, all night long with only a 10-foot buffer. So I think that's something that you should do and come back here with support from those two property owners who currently live there, that they're okay with that. I mean, you're cutting that buffer in less than half of what's required, which would be a significant concern.
We can make the attempt.
Just hopefully a little more than an attempt. Let's get out there and try and make it happen. I mean, this could be a good application, but there are a couple of things that, in my mind, that need to be worked out.
Mhm.
The other concern I have is, I know it's retail use, but I would be opposed to a laundromat going in there if there was a
Yeah.
retail use, because again, the hours of operation tend to go late, and also the amount of cars that tend to have to be parked there. So there are some uses in the retail area, and even some restaurants as well,
Mhm.
that would require more parking. So you're shy on parking and not as shy as originally planned, because you've gone from 14 down to 6. If the county permits the 5, the parking, if those 5 spots are directly in front of it, realistically, hopefully, the people will use it for in and out of the retail while they're there, not for something down the road.
Yep.
But, if you're gonna put something in there in the retail use, that's a high-use retail, I think that's a problem. Also, if you can do something that has extended hours, again, with those residences only having a 10-foot buffer, that creates a problem. So I would look to, if we're gonna approve this, restrict some of the uses there as well.
Okay.
Um,
So that's something that will be discussed and have to be dealt with the property owner anyway.
Yeah, so those would be, my concerns about it. Without answers to those questions, I would not say I support or don't support it. I just would want those questions answered for me to
Mhm.
make a decision based upon this. If they can't be addressed satisfactorily, I would think that the answer is the height of the building has to go down, or something has to happen so they can fit on there with the amount of parking that's required, the proper buffer, et cetera, et cetera. So I think some of those concerns need to be addressed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there any other questions from any board member? Not seeing any. Do I have a motion? Mr. Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make a motion to close the public hearing and reserve decision this evening and allow staff to work through a host of these issues with.
I have
the
a motion from Mr. Moriarty to close the public hearing and reserve decision tonight. Do I have a second? Mrs. Cruz, second. All in favor? Aye. It's reserved.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last of our public hearings. Now we have some decision items. Marathoni Inc., PB 2022-017, southwest corner of Montauk Highway and Lincoln Drive, Oakdale, 1352 Montauk Highway. Applicant requests 2 planning board special permits for a restaurant and outdoor seating as an accessory use to a restaurant in the Business 1 District pursuant to 68-272, 1G and C respectively. Site plan modifications are also requested as part of this application. Do we have an applicant?
Good evening, Board. My name's Harry Fornaris from Greenberg Traurig LLP. I'm the attorney for the applicant, Ionis Enterprises LLC. This is for the Donatello Pizzeria Restaurant, and I'll be making the application or continuing the application
Give your
today.
address for your business address for the record.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. 900 Stewart Avenue, that's Suite 505 in Garden City, New York, 11530.
Thank you.
So as a quick refresher on the application, we were in front of the board here in August of 2022. The initial application was made, there were public comments, it was a public hearing. It was reserved. We went back to address the board's concerns, the public's concerns, and now we're back today. So the general project has not changed. It's still for the special permit for the restaurant use along with the special permit for the outdoor seating. The building is not going to change outside of a small vestibule that is detailed on the site plan. And we're essentially here today to go over the changes made to the site plan and to review any other questions or comments the board may have and to go from there. So any questions at this point or anything I can address?
All right, what I'll do is I'll open it up to the board to see if they have any questions. Right after I do the staff report. So, Ms. Wozniak?
Thank you. Since the public hearing, the applicant revised the site plan to address the board's and neighbors' concerns. The outdoor seating area and refuse enclosure have been removed from the buffer, and the applicant has addressed the drainage concerns and is meeting drainage requirements as outlined in the subdivision and land development regulations. The application will require a 23% parking relaxation and an 18% overall landscaping relaxation. In addition, a buffer relaxation will be required to memorialize the existing building, which encroaches 10 feet into the buffer, along with a concrete walkway which is required to connect the doors along the back of the building. Overall, the site is going to come closer into compliance with today's standards, and there will be additional plantings added to reduce any impacts to the residential neighbors. Therefore, planning recommends the board grant the application subject to the attached conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Wozniak. Do you have any questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have,
Can I ask just a couple of questions here? I
Mr.
see the
Chairman?
plantings in the back. Is there, I can't tell, Kelly, from this overhead I have here, but is there green space up front in the corners of the property towards Montauk Highway? Is there gonna be replantings in there? It says concrete sign bases where I'm talking about. Okay, so there's new landscaping being added up front, because it doesn't show it in the plan here. It doesn't show any landscaping. Okay, so there is landscaping being added there as well?
Yeah, I believe that's detailed on, or if it's not detailed there,
Okay.
forgot which page on it, but yes, is the short answer.
If memory serves me correct, I think there was a strip in the parking lot too, of some landscaping also.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
There's a strip that was down in between the parking areas that had landscaping in it also. It was raised, I believe. Right, okay, we see it on the plan. Any other comments or questions?
I just want
from
to
the
thank you
board?
for removing the pavers and the seating that was inside the buffers. I think that's very helpful in this application.
This is the, what am I trying to say?
Yeah, these are the intermediate
That's where
plantings.
it's
This
at.
is
Okay.
planning on the side, planning the.
Got it.
So we have a couple areas.
Yeah, so just in reviewing the landscaping plan with the engineer, yes, it is considered in the site plan there for the parking lot. And then one other item from the fire marshal I just wanted to note was that the parking lot is going to be repaired essentially once we're moving forward with the permits, because I know that was a concern with the town. So just wanted to make sure that was addressed while we're here.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the board? None, seeing no more comments, can I have a motion? Mr. Ferrajari,
That we grant this application.
I have a motion by Mr. Ferrajari to grant the application subject to the CNRs. Do I have a second? Mr. Moriarty, all in favor? It's granted.
All right, thank you, board. Have a great night.
Item 5, Carlton Avenue LLC, care of Georgica Green Ventures LLC. PB 2023-032, northwest corner of Carlton Avenue and Brightside Avenue, through lot to Cordello Avenue. 1 and 21-31 Carlton Avenue, 5 and 9 Railroad Avenue, 1 Cordello Avenue, Central Islip. Applicant requests a planning board special permit for a mixed-use building in the business district pursuant to 68-257-1G. Applicant also requests a partial waiver of the 30% commercial use requirement along with site plan modifications. Do we have an applicant?
That would be me, Crystal Chan, VP of Design at Georgica Green Ventures.
Okay. Would you like to go to staff report or? would you like to-
Yeah, I think basically we've presented before and then we took the comments and I think it has been kind of worked out with staff. I think it's probably best to just let staff read the report.
Okay, Ms. Wozniak?
Thank you. At the last public hearing, the board reserved decision in order to provide time for the applicant to obtain more information on the traffic mitigation. Since then, the county DPW has approved the request for a traffic signal at Brightside Avenue, which will significantly reduce any impacts of the proposed development. In addition, the applicant has provided updated truck turning templates, which demonstrate better circulation than previously submitted. However, not all of our traffic consultant concerns regarding truck movements have been satisfied at this time. The potential to connect the development to and improve Cordello Avenue is still being analyzed at this time, but the applicant has agreed that if this is requested by the town, they are willing to provide such access and improvements. The board had also expressed concerns regarding the reduced buffer adjacent to 1, 3, and 5 Brightside Avenue. In order to mitigate any potential negative impacts, the applicant has agreed to plant a double row of evergreens on those adjacent properties and then agreed to install a sound attenuation fence within their buffer. The elevations were also modified slightly to provide a more muted color palette. Overall, the proposed development is supported by the Planning Division and will provide a gateway to the DRI area along with several public benefits. It will also help to redevelop a blighted site and spark development and interest and business to the area. The applicant has some funding deadlines which need to be met in order to move the project forward. So planning would recommend the board grant the application tonight, subject to the attached conditions, which outline the amenities and improvements to be provided by the applicant and require the applicant to satisfy any traffic and truck movement mitigation measures required by the town and county. And then planning would also recommend the board adopt a negative declaration as this is an unlisted secret action.
I'm sorry, Kelly, I missed the last. Did the board adopt a negative?
Declaration, because this is an unlisted secret action.
Thank you.
Just quick clarification, one thing, you said they're gonna plant the plantings on the neighbor's property, not their,
Correct. I know the conditions are long, but it says that they need to provide the installation, and then if the property owners do not want the plantings, they have to provide us a signed affidavit stating as such that they reject the plantings.
so the offer will be made to them and it'll be their decision.
Yes, we have reached out.
Okay, any other questions?
I just want to say, I know this was a hard project to put together. I thank you guys for going back and listening to our concerns and addressing them. I think this is a good project for the community in a lot of different respects, and thank you for doing that. I know it's not an easy undertaking.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Ferrajari?
Ellie, do we have the revised elevations, the architectural renderings?
Sorry, I don't have a physical copy of them. I only have a digital. I don't know if you guys
Haven't
brought
uploaded,
the
as
review.
of today. I think
revised
we have
applic-
the latest version.
I think the only thing that changed from last time is the colors. Like I said, they're a little more neutral. There we go.
But it's good.
As long as we get a, okay, and that's the muted version. That's okay.
Any other questions from the board? Anything else from the applicant? Do I have a motion? Mr. Ferrajari?
I'll make a motion that we grant this application subject to the covenants and restrictions, and along with adopting a negative declaration for secret.
I have a motion from Mr. Ferrajari to adapt it and grant the application subject to the CNRs and the negative DAC. Do I have a second? Mr. Moriarty? I'm sorry, Mr. Matamore. So I have the second by Mr. Matamore. All in favor? Aye, it's granted. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Item 6, Ella Boglioni, PB 2023-041, northeast corner of Carlton Avenue and Courthouse Drive, Central Islip, 0, 7, and number 11 Courthouse Drive. Applicant requests a planning board approval for signage in the PDDRS district pursuant to 68-324C 3A. Is there an applicant here tonight?
There's no applicant. I'm just going to do the presentation.
Seeing no applicant, we're going to go to Ms. Wozniak for a staff report.
Yeah, so before you guys, those are the pictures of the signs if you guys are curious, but they're really remaining wholly the same. The property is located within the CI Planned Development Retail Service District, and it's currently occupied by 2 hotels, a Courtyard Marriott, and a Residence Inn Marriott. Tonight, the applicant is looking to obtain signage approval to replace existing signage with the company's updated designs. The Residence Inn is replacing 2 facial signs and then removing 1 sign completely. The new signs will be gray channel letter signage of similar size to the existing signs. The Courtyard Hotel is replacing their 2 facial signs with black channel letter signage, again of similar size to the existing signs. The 2 hotels share a single ground sign, which will remain, but the panels will be replaced with an upgraded company design. And then lastly, the public interest signs that direct the patrons to the site entrances will have panels replaced with more modern signage with gray background and white lettering. Overall, the signage is remaining substantially similar to the existing signage on site and is just being upgraded with new colors and fonts. The updated signage has a positive impact on the building aesthetics. Therefore, planning recommends the board grant the application as presented. It is important to note that this approval is not approval for them to install the signs, just approval of the overall design. The applicant will still need to obtain sign permits from the building division.
Thank you, Ms. Wozniak. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Do I have a motion?
I'd move to grant the application.
I have a motion by Mr. Moriarty to grant the application. I have a second by Mr. Wilson. All in favor? It's granted. Item number 7, Fifth Avenue Rentals LLC, CZ 2023-016, southeast corner of North Clinton Avenue and Howell Road, through lot to Fifth Avenue, CR 13, Bayshore, known as 207 North Clinton Avenue. Applicant requests a change of zone from resident B district to general service T district in order to construct a medical office building. A parking relaxation may be required as part of this application. We have an applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Raymond Justo, 715 South Country Road, West Bay Shore, New York, for the applicant. Also with me tonight, if it's required, we have Jacqueline Peranto from Key Civil Engineering. We have Sean O'Ryan from O'Ryan Engineering regarding traffic, and our client, Dr. Fandos, is also here. Just very briefly, since the last public hearing, we heard the concerns about the board and the neighbors. I did a FOIL request. I got the addresses of the neighbors. We sent out letters to them. Dr. Fandos and I met with at least, I would say at least 15 or so of the neighbors. It was a very productive meeting. Based on those meetings, we've actually revised the plans twice to meet what we believe is the town's concerns of the neighbors. Most importantly, the neighbors to the south, they were very concerned about plantings and the height of plantings. And we've agreed to a substantial amount of plantings, heights of, I think, 14 to 16 feet in height. And it's going to cost our client about $50,000 just for the plantings on the southern portion of the property with respect to any concerns on privacy. So as you can hopefully see from the last set of site plan that we've done that. And we're here tonight. If you need any particular questions answered, the engineer and the traffic engineers here as well. I know there's some slight concern about land bank spots. And I don't know if Sean wants to go first and read into the record what his recommendations are, but we're here as well to talk about those land bank spots as well.
All right, so I'll ask Mr. Colgan to do his staff report, and if there's any questions from the board, just stand by.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go to staff report from Mr. Colgan.
Thank you. This application was previously heard in September of last year. Primary concerns raised at that time were the height of the building, parking, and as well as cut-through traffic on North Clinton Avenue. The height of the building would exceed Residence B district maximum slightly, and the building will be set back further than a conventional Residence B dwelling would be. The building is also required to have a residential look in compliance with general service T regulations. So the staff doesn't believe that the height will have a significant impact on the adjacent neighbors. With regards to parking, the staff is not supportive of 3 of the land bank spots in the site plan due to safety concerns and their proximity to the access points from North Clinton as well as Fifth Avenue. The County Department of Public Works also shared that same concern and also didn't advise any parking spots backing out onto the access points. Meaning that the applicant would require a 5% parking relaxation with this proposed layout if the board agrees with those findings. The town's traffic consultant does not anticipate a parking shortfall, even without the land bank stalls, and the percentage relaxation is comparable with other new medical office buildings that the board has approved recently. Traffic Safety did look into the use of North Clinton Avenue, and as per their inspector, the traffic that was going through North Clinton were either residents or visitors, hardly observed any cut-through traffic, nor was speeding identified by that investigation. The applicant is proposing superior plantings in the buffer area that would exceed the minimum standards for height at the time of planting. The staff recommends this subject to the review and approval of the town engineer for viability of those superior plantings. Based on this and the applicant's meeting with the public and the changes they've made in response to their concerns, staff recommends that the board grant the application subject to the attached covenants and restrictions.
Thank you, Mr. Colgan. Do we have any other questions from the board?
I just want to say thank you for meeting with the neighbors to the south. I know there's some of the concerns, and your increased landscaping there means a lot. I think it goes well with the community as well as for the board that we raise those concerns.
Yeah.
The plantings along North Clinton, I was trying to make it out on the plan. Can you just talk about what you're going to do on North Clinton? Is it going to preserve sort of a residential street character with the plantings there? I know there's a lot of parking spots up against it. I just want to ask that.
The landscaping along North Clinton consists of a row of evergreens for the buffering of headlights for the parking stalls that are facing the roadway to buffer for the residences. There's also some street trees there's a lot of existing trees there, which we're hoping to maintain. But if needed, some additional street trees would be planted.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair, just a quick, do we have a rendering that we can look at? I know there's an obligation that has some residential look to the building. Do you have that with you or no?
I do have a small scale of the architectural that I can hand up. Sorry, we weren't giving a.
In the meantime, Mr. Ferrajari has a question for Sean.
Sean, while they're looking for it, I just want to clarify what you're recommending here in your staff analysis. With regard to the land bank parking, the town and the county doesn't support the location of land bank parking. So you're recommending if we do move ahead with an approval, that we grant a 5% parking relaxation?
That is correct.
I will accept the rendering as part of the application, but we'll give the phone back.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I just have a question.
Oh, hold on, before, we have a question for the applicant, Mr. Ferrajari.
Mr. Chair, so before we make a motion, you're okay with the 5% parking relaxation? You don't feel you need the full amount of parking?
No, we don't. As a matter of fact, our traffic engineer is here to testify if we have to.
No, I'm just asking if
Not
you're
necessary.
okay with it.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, you had a comment?
I just want to also mention for the record that, traffic safety did go out as a result of our request from the meeting. They did not find anything on North Clinton that was raised at the meeting. Certainly, if there are problems that exist currently, that they can always call the town and somebody will go out and take a look at it, but it's not related to this project in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Moriarty,
I would make a motion to grant the application subject to the attached covenants and restrictions, which I assume are acceptable to the applicant.
They're acceptable.
Thank you.
I have a motion from Mr. Moriarty to grant the application subject to the attached covenants and restrictions.
Yes.
And I have a second from Mr. Ferrajari. All in favor?
Aye.
It's granted.
Thank you very much.
Seeing no other items on the agenda, can I have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
I have motion to move to adjourn by Mr. Moriarty, a second. Mr. Wilson, second. All in favor? Aye, we're adjourned.